Peace. You are tuned into Edible Activists with your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. On this show, we honor Black people and their stories in food and agriculture, celebrating legacy, traditions, contributions, and creativity that all stem from the land. So tune in and let's get started. Peace. I am your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. Today's guest is Deb Freeman. She is a food anthropologist, writer, podcaster, a Black women in food honoree, and the executive producer and host of the award-winning PBS documentary, Finding Edna Lewis, a film about the life and legacy of a chef who forever changed how Southern food is seen in America. Her life's work is making sure Black foodways are not just celebrated, but recorded, honored, and passed on. And honestly, we feel that deeply here on Edible Activists. And Deb, I welcome you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm long-time listener, first-time caller kind of thing. So
You just will never understand like how much this means to me. I met you like in person for the first time at the wonderful, wonderful Black Women in Food Conference. Like shout out to that amazing
yes,
meeting and the women behind it. And I was on stage, y'all, like the big stage. Sidebar, didn't know I was going to be on the big stage talking. I'm thinking I'm be in a small room, but of course you have the Anela Malik, and I got Clancy, and Cuisine Noir. Like I'm on stage with the big folks, and I was mid-sentence and I had to shout out Deb, just talking about times of like, this work can get on you and what do you do? And I'm like, I look to other, Black women in this space
Mhm.
doing it. And that's when I had to like call out Deb. I was like, oh my gosh, like Deb is amazing. So it means
Wow.
the world that you've poured into my work. And so it was great to see you, meet you for the first time in person. But so like just so fond of the documentary and your storytelling, everything.
Th-
So
Thank you so much. I mean, I've listened to you for so long. I feel like I know you already in some capacity. And I will say that when you were on stage, something you said really impacted me when you were saying basically that, about sponsorships and not all money is good money and really having those boundaries and that really conscious decision to say, no, 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 if this is not aligning with my goals and what I believe in, that I have the courage to say no. And I really applaud that. And that really resonated with me.
oh my goodness, thank you. I try to keep it real at all times. I try, try to keep it real. Deb, when was the moment in your own life where you realized that food was carrying something bigger than just a meal?
Yeah, so I think that really happened in a museum. So I was at the Hampton History Museum in Virginia, and I saw a photograph on the wall, this enormous photograph of Black women who were standing at a long metal table and they were picking crabs. So the pictures of maybe 1930s, 1940s. And so I'm looking at this picture, and I'm like, who are these women? Why are you picking crab? Like, and so I really became obsessed with trying to figure out who these women were. And so ultimately, I wound up writing an article about these women who were able to build, buy homes and send their children to college by picking crab. And I was like, what a really interesting story. But how did I not know about this? Like I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, so Hampton's right across the water. This is in my backyard. How do I not know this? And it really was like a rabbit hole from that point on because it became, okay, so if I don't know this and this is from my community where I'm from, what else am I not thinking about? What else do I not know? And it was just off to the races at that point where it was like, okay, so it's not just something I enjoy. It's not something, that's for celebrations. There's history and meaning. There's layers to this that literally all came from a photograph in a museum.
I mean, museums would do it for you. Oh my gosh. It's like I remember going to a quilting exhibit down in Jackson, Mississippi, and
Hmm.
just seeing these old photos of women around a table. It brings up so many questions and just sends
Yeah.
you on a whole nother journey. So like Black women around a table eating crabs. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine what came up for you when you saw that. So you grew up in what we will reference as Norfolk, because I want to say Norfolk all day down, Deb. I want to say Norfolk, but pay attention, Norfolk. I'm gonna say it exactly how
I
Deb.
appreciate that.
Do you know that's the first time I've heard that?
Really?
Yes.
It's interesting because people will say like usually like Norfolk, yeah, or like, if you're on the news, you hear very straight up pronunciation because they don't want to, sound like they're saying a cuss word. But I really believe that that's the way you say it because my grandmother and I lived with my great grandmother until she passed. That's the way they said Norfolk. And so these women and all of like my family members who are older, they have that kind of Tidewater accent that is slowly
Hmm.
like, becoming less and less prevalent, but they all said Norfolk. So to me, that's the original pronunciation from my perspective, just because these are women, my great grandmother was born like in the 1800s, in the late 1800s. And so if she's pronouncing it that way, then I'm pronouncing it that
Uh,
way.
100% Norfolk it is, and that's what it is. And we don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose
No,
that.
no, exactly, exactly. And so, yeah, Norfolk is a place where there's so many transplants because of the military. So you don't hear that kind of pronunciation. But my family, we traced it back to like the late 1700s. We're all in Virginia, and so they didn't really go anywhere. So that's my proof. I'm standing by it. I'm standing on
I'm standing next to you. It's Norfolk. Y'all heard it here. Don't say Norfolk,
it.
Norfolk.
Please, yeah.
Deb, what did Southern food mean to you growing up in Virginia? For some folks, when they hear Virginia, they don't think like Southern food. For some folks, right?
Hmm.
There is the deep South of Virginia. There is.
Hello.
So I'm talking South South, all right?
Right. Yeah. Yes,
But
ma'am.
what was Southern food to you growing up in Norfolk?
You know what's interesting? I never thought of it until I was much older. I never saw a distinction between Southern food and just food. Like, as I mentioned, I grew up with my great grandmother and my grandmother, my mother as well. But my grandmother really was the primary cook in the house. And so I was fortunate enough, I would come home every day and she would make something 9 times out of 10 from scratch. So it was chicken and pastry, which I later learned was what people call chicken dumplings, collard greens, like all of these kind of traditional Southern dishes. But it wasn't a big deal to me. It was just what we ate. It was just what I knew. And it wasn't until, I think I just got much older and my world got bigger that it's like, oh, this is Southern food. Fried chicken is Southern food, or, you know, like cornbread or things like that that you don't necessarily see in New York or in other places that my family would take me to. Like that wasn't like the norm. And so it never occurred to me that there was a distinction. It was really good. And it's what Nana made. And that's what it was. Like that's as far as my thought process came. But I recognize now like the gift that my grandmother gave me of like just cooking. I can't even imagine how much time she spent cooking every day to make sure that I had something just really awesome and delicious when I came home, and it was a surprise every day. It was a gift. What a gift that she gave me.
It is such a gift indeed. And I say this, quite often that like the all the South is not the same when it comes to food, right? So like my family in Mississippi did not grow up frying chicken.
Mm.
It just wasn't a thing like specifically in Jackson. Maybe other parts of Mississippi. I don't know, like rural, but we're talking more like city-ish. Like it wasn't, it wasn't it our we were centered around the fish. It was the fish,
Okay.
it's the
Okay.
perch, it's the brims, you know. Chicken and dumplings was actually more Chicago, but it was still
Mm,
Southern because of, you know, my family migrated from the rural South like to
mm.
Chicago. So like I always just like love hearing like in from folks in different parts of the South, like what was that food like coming up?
Yeah.
And I chuckle when folks like, "Oh, I know your family can make some great fried chicken." And I'm like, they don't fry it actually. It's not a thing that you will see. I'm sure they know how to do it, but
Right, right. But it was not like a staple for you growing up. Okay.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, Deb, you have been on the move, the groove, all the things in between. Finding the beautiful Edna Lewis. I just want to sit here in this moment because this masterpiece that you
Mm.
have produced, and I know there have been many other hands to touch this too, so giving credit to a wonderful team behind this. I mean, my goodness, like y'all, I'm a point you in the direction of where to watch the documentary, but you all have got to watch it if you have not, and certainly, you know, want to spend some time talking about the documentary. For some reason, for those who do not know Edna, how would you describe her?
Oh my gosh. So Edna Lewis really is, the grande dame, if you will, of Southern cooking. She, through her cookbooks, really introduced a different view of what Southern cooking could be. She is a pioneer in the food to table space, the farm to table space. It is not Alice Waters, who I adore, but it is not Alice Waters. It's Edna Lewis, who's touting that sort of, seasonality, eating with the seasons, knowing your farmer, knowing where your food comes from. She's talking about that in the 70s in a way that few people were discussing. And so she is a cookbook author and just a beautiful writer and really someone who, if you don't know who she is, please pick up a cookbook immediately. It's the 50th anniversary of the Taste of Country Cooking. The new version just came out last week. Yeah, last week. So I highly recommend that you pick up this cookbook that reads like prose. I mean, it's not just recipes, it's stories of how she grew up, and it's just really a beautiful memoir slash food journey.
In the documentary, you call Miss Edna Lewis, the great Edna Lewis, your culinary hero. When did you first, was it the book in which you first encountered her? Like, what was the very first encounter that like stopped you in your tracks to say, I need to learn more?
For sure. Yeah, so like it was very soon after writing that first article that I talked to you about the women who picked crab. And so what went off in my mind was, what else don't I know? And so I literally did a Google search of Virginia chefs, like, and her name came up. And I was like, who is this? Like, I've never heard of this. She's from Virginia as well. She's like, 3 hours from where I grew up. And I'm like, what is this? So I go to the bookstore, I pick up The Taste of Country Cooking, and when I opened that book, it was like an aha moment that Oprah talks about, like when the light bulb just goes off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I not know? First of all, and number two, why are people not talking about her? Just the language and just how beautiful, she wrote about Freetown, which was a community of emancipated Black people in Virginia, and who created their own, community and church and school. And just, it was the first time I had read a first person account by a Black person where they were the focus. Like, it wasn't about what was going on externally. It was all about what was going on in that community. And then the recipes, of course, which are, some are very simple, but they're super delicious, because they're respecting the ingredient in a way that I had not seen. So that reading that cookbook really changed my entire perspective on what food could be, what Southern food could be, what Virginia food could be. It really just turned everything I thought I knew on its ear.
I mean, everything about the documentary was striking, but hearing her voice, Deb. I mean, just I got chills. Just this like light, just very delicate voice that you would hear from Miss Edna. I mean, my goodness. What was that process to like get the Deb's like
Man,
it's the
listen,
whole thing to get the
man,
audio.
man, let me tell you what. So the audio, and we have a video piece that's in the film as well. That was on reel to reel tapes. So I don't know if anybody remembers, but like back in the day when you recorded stuff, there's this machine and it's like film but for sound, right? So it's like this film and it goes around, like I don't even know how to describe it. That's even beyond my time. But like there's so you have that, but like you can't, what are you gonna do with that, right? And so we were so lucky. The University of South Carolina actually digitized that. And I will tell you, it did not come in until the last minute. And so we were like wondering if it was going to be digitized, if it was going to be, able to be in the film. And really thanks to the tenacity of Hannah Ayers, who is a producer on the film from Phil Studio, and Lance Warren, who's the other producer. They really made that happen. And so just all the credit goes to them because without them pushing, we would not have that audio. We would not have had that video. Again, we had to turn it in January, and I think we got it in like November. Like I think it's somewhere around November. So that was crazy trying to get that in. And so just really making sure it was the insert at really good moments, because it's like you don't want to hear her in the first, kind of like opening scene, because like you're trying to, if you've not heard of her, you have to kind of understand the context of who she was. And so by the time you first hear her in the film, it, like you said, it's kind of like, oh, like you kind of sit up a little bit because we've been talking about this woman from other people's perspectives. And then you have her voice. And then later in the film, you see her. And it's a really beautiful reveal. That's one of my favorite moments in the film.
My goodness. Shout out to everyone. Y'all were on it and made that happen. It
Yeah.
was so beautiful. I mean, it just added to the richness of that documentary. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. I mean, you stated this before, and most folks who know the history of Miss Edna Lewis knows that she's pioneer and the originator of what we call the farm to table movement. Like she was just doing it. It was just a thing, right? And so I feel like the credit is due. I mean, the credit has been overdue, but like you are sharing that and exposing that through this documentary, obviously. But like, what would you name, like, what does the documentary do to correct the long overdueness, I'm gonna make up a word, if you will, of like not of like her like rarely being able to receive that credit for, really being the originator of that farm to table movement in past years.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that through hearing through the different chefs, hearing from the different chefs in the film, acknowledge what profound impact they had on them personally and professionally. I hope that when you watch it, that you begin to understand that it's not a one-off, that she's not a regular chef. I'm sorry, she's just not. And of course, I'm biased, but just to be able to literally change how people see Southern food, that's no small feat. There's a reason why the New York Times named The Taste of Country Cooking the most influential American cookbook in the past 100 years. There's a reason for that. And so I think what we try to correct is just really acknowledgement, I think, in a lot of ways, and giving her her due and talking about her legacy. And honestly, just talking about her, because I think that she gets left out of so many different conversations. And so what I hope, even before the film came out, and I continue to hope, is that this film sparks conversations with people about Miss Lewis and about her work. And I think that the more people that find her, and kind of like learn about her, I think that naturally spreads on to like, hey girl, did you hear about this? Or, that kind of thing. I hope that those conversations come out of it so that she really is given her due in a lot of ways.
Ashe. What did making Finding Edna Lewis teach you about your own storytelling in general, Deb?
I think, and I think I knew this a little bit before the film, but while doing the film, it really hit home is that, Virginia's not really known for, being a pioneer. I won't go off on a tangent on Virginia food because I'll take up the rest of the interview talking about that. But, but I think that once I started writing about food and whatnot, Virginia gets a bad rap that, there's nothing good here. We're not part of the South, as you mentioned earlier. And it was like not cool, right? Like to talk about Virginia foodways. And so reading her books and then going through the film and seeing the admiration that people have for her work, it really allowed me to feel good about like where I come from and not be ashamed of that. Like her work said to me that what I'm working on, how I view Virginia food and being from Virginia is enough. It doesn't matter that it's not like, everyone talks about Texas barbecue and people talk about, white sauce in Alabama and like all of these things that come from different states. And no, like that's great. Happy for y'all. But Virginia has we got something to say too,
I
what I
know that's
mean?
right. I know that's right.
And she really gave me an appreciation for the food that I was eating when I was growing up. And not only that, but in some small way, she encouraged me to research and dig deeper and then really discover all of these really cool American foods that begin in Virginia. We're not talking about it, but they begin here. And so she really gave me an appreciation for where I'm from.
Oh my gosh. We can just
Yeah,
land the plane there. My goodness.
true.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Deb, outside of the documentary, and I know it's probably hard because, like I said, you on the mood, the groove, everything in between. What are just like some of your fun, like favorite food adventures that you like to dibble and dabble into that we don't see on Instagram, that we can't
Oh,
Google?
oh my gosh. Okay, so all right, buckle in. So so one of the things that I grew up eating and still love to say, well, there's two things and they are both Virginian. The first is fried crab. And so people are like, oh, you mean a fried soft shell crab? No, I mean a hard shell crab that's been steamed and then dipped in batter and fried, and you put hot sauce and vinegar on it. And so when you crack open the crab, you've got like the crab meat, but then you've got this like salty, kind of tangy batter that goes along with
Mm.
it. It's everything. Like it is everything. And it's harder and harder to find, but you can find it in certain places in Norfolk and in Portsmouth in Hampton Roads area. And it's just like it's delicious. It's delicious. So that's like that one.
Are you eating the shell too? Is it
You don't
crispy? The crispy? No. Okay.
so
Okay.
you're gonna crack the crab like you normally would if it was
Okay.
steamed.
Okay.
But it's just like there's this outer layer of batter. So it's really messy, but it's so delicious because it's like that batter and the sweetness of the crab meat juxtaposed
Mm.
with the spicy tanginess of the batter and the saltiness. You've got all of these like things going off in your mouth. It's delicious.
Well,
It's
you know,
delicious.
anything with a batter, I don't care if I'm supposed to eat the shell or not, Deb. I'm gonna try. If it's fried for a reason, fried for a reason, go
You
for it.
You gotta try it. You gotta try it. It's like it's so good. That would be one. And then the second thing would be yak. And so like people associate yakame with like New Orleans and what they call like drunk food. That's great. I'm glad y'all have that. However, the noodle is actually made in Norfolk. The noodles that they send down there are made in
What?
Norfolk. And so the yak, if folks haven't heard of it, yak is really, an interesting combination of African American and Chinese foods kind of mixed together when in the early 1900s, when Chinese restaurants were moving into Black communities, they adapted dishes for what they considered the palate of Black communities. And so it is really like it's chicken, it's similar to a lo mein noodle, but it's a noodle, it's chicken, it's egg, ketchup, onion, and like in this broth. And so you like
Mm.
stir it all together and it is absolutely delicious. And I don't know why people aren't talking about that. It's very big in the Black community. A lot of people would have um, yuck fundraisers at churches. So like,
Really?
yeah. And so that's how people would, make money for the building fund or whatever the case may be.
Right. You know,
Because the building fund never is never paid
it's
off.
a forever thing.
It's
Y'all been building forever.
exactly. You always gonna have the building fund. But yeah, they were used as fundraisers for like cheerleading competitions. I remember seeing that growing up. People cook in their house, but you can get at certain like carry out Chinese places. So those two are probably my absolute favorites.
Oh,
And the fact that you can still get them today is wonderful, but there's just less and less of them, which kind of bums me out. But again, that's something that I have to start talking about,
yeah.
so that people can start, seeking it out and trying it too.
It sounds like the next project. Sounds like the
It
next
might
project.
be. It might be.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I got to go back to the building fund joke. Like, 'cause it is a thing. Like it is a thing. Have you ever thought about like the exploration of like the revivals at like Black churches and like the food? And I'm assuming this is like off script. Like I did not ask this question, so I don't even know if you like grew up going to church or like whatever,
Yeah.
but like
Mhm.
has that something that you've ever explored just around like the community and the Black church and the revivals and like the food and the settings? That's something you've ever explored or just thought about exploring?
So a little bit, and what kicked that off is I wrote a piece about yellow cake maybe 5, 6 years ago. And
Child yellow cake.
and so people were like, "Oh, you mean church cake?" And because like they're like every Sunday at the repast, you had yellow cake. And
Absolutely.
I'm thinking back, I'm like, you know what? That's absolutely correct. Like that was like a staple. Somebody's grandma was baking in the back during service, and you had cake because it was like whatever the protein was, fried chicken, maybe some mac and cheese, but you always had yellow cake. And so what I thought was so interesting is, so I did grow up going to church. I grew up in Norfolk, but it's like people from all over the country were like, I have that same experience with yellow cake. I
Mm,
relate to that, and it sent me pictures of them with their like grandmothers and their aunts and their moms baking and like, all these stories. And I was like, there is a thread that connects us in our community around
mhm,
food. And to
mhm.
your point, a lot of that comes from like growing up in church and in a traditional church where you eat afterwards and then you go to the afternoon service.
Yep.
But like,
Child was
but
all day.
you know what I mean? It'd be like, do we have to do the 3 o'clock today?
That part.
Are we really all right? Okay. But and if you
It's
know,
so
you know.
real. It's so real.
If your listeners know, they
If
know.
you know, you know.
But, but yeah, man, like that's something that I have thought about because how is it that people I've never met, never interacted with, different parts of the country, we're all having this shared communal experience around very similar foods, and occasions. So yeah, that's something that I have thought about. Particularly when it came to yellow cake, but even in a broader sense, like we all have very specific kind of like, okay, so we know when we go to the cookout, we
Mhm.
know what's going to be there. There's a reason why we're like, who's making the mac and cheese? Who's making the potato salad?
Potato
Who
salad is
made
a big
that?
thing.
Right, you know what I mean? And who's bringing the bag of ice? Like everybody, like,
The bag
and
of ice? Yes. Right. But it's still a thing. Like, and shout
that's
out to
real.
KJ,
Yes,
Black Food,
KJ,
like
Black
who
Food
made the
Fridays.
potato salad.
Yes, yes. Exactly. Exactly. It's real. And again, he's down there in South Carolina.
Hmm.
You grew up in Mississippi. I'm in Virginia. We're all having the same experience with slightly different variables, but essentially we're all having the same thing. And I think that's something that I'm really interested in exploring because I think
Hmm.
that, let's pull the thread a little bit
Yes.
and try to figure out why that is. And we're all over the country, but
Hmm.
but somehow we're having the same experience.
The same experience. And that's like present day. We can come together and it's y'all need ice. I'm bringing the ice. It's like those
Right.
things, like the ice, the potato salad, the mac and
Absolutely.
cheese, staple conversations. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
is coming up for me. Deb, you grew up with your great grandmother, right? Which is a blessing. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I can't even imagine like what that experience was like. Like what are some you had spoke to like some of the recipes, which going back to when we were talking about chicken and dumplings, it was called you Norfolk. What was it called in Norfolk? It was
Chicken pastry, chicken
pastry
and pastry. Yeah.
chicken and pastry. But
Mhm.
did it look the same as chicken and dumpling, or was it a different?
So
No.
it tastes exactly the same because it's the same dish, but the shape
Okay.
was different. So I
Mm.
remember my grandmother making the dough, taking an iced tea glass and rolling it out on a
Yep.
brown paper bag with like flour on the brown paper bag, rolling out the dough and cutting it into strips. Whereas dumplings, they kind of they're little round things that you
Yes.
put to the chicken, but hers she prefers strips for some reason, but she would cut them into strips and then put them in the pot while the chicken's boiling and all that. Um,
Ah, gotcha.
so I'm not sure where there's so many questions I wish I could go back and ask, but I don't know where the name chicken and pastry came from.
Hmm.
But yeah,
But that's what she said. She called
that's
it
what
chicken
she
and pastry.
said.
That's
And
what it
she was in
was.
there making that all from scratch. Like I can see it in my mind right now. It's
Hmm.
crazy.
Are there are there recipes that you've been able to preserve from great grandma at
Yeah, I
all?
mean, it was really my grandmother.
Okay.
Everybody was in one house. So if you can imagine all these really strong women in one
Yes.
house. So I got four generations of women in
Mm.
one house,
That
which
is
is right, right.
that is
Like,
just remarkable. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. And that's just awesome. And it's a house that's been my family for 100 years. So for all of us to grow up
Mm.
okay, that's a tangent. Anyway, focus. So the recipes, it's so funny. I can do my grandmother's collard greens. I can do my grandmother's cornbread, which was the only thing that she made from a box. Now she started with Jiffy cornbread, but then she added extra stuff in it.
Of course,
And it's
always.
of course, and so it's more like cake than cornbread by the time
Hmm.
she's done with it. And I'm like, yes, I need a cake to eat with my food. Thank you so much. And that's because of my nana. Um, but I can do that and her yacht. Like everything else I have tried and I can't quite figure out what's missing, but those three I can do. So I'm
Mm.
gonna take that as a win.
We're gonna take that as a win, honey, because the rest of it is just like just their touch, their
No,
flair. They
yeah,
can do the
yeah.
same. I can do the same exact thing. I was in Mississippi about a month and a half ago, and I'm talking we eating good collard greens, hoe
Mm.
cakes, everything. I
Oh
said,
wow.
okay, let me. I'm talking my grandmother, 90. That's my heart. I love her.
Oh
Yes,
man.
still throws down in the kitchen. I
What a
said,
blessing.
yes. I said, let me make me some hoe cakes. They didn't taste too different, okay? And you would
Okay.
think it's like a simple thing, And I even called her. I was like, she was like, you know how to make cornbread? I was like, I guess. And I made it, and they were good, but it wasn't
Mm.
the same
Yeah.
exact hoe
Yep.
cake that my grandmother made. It wasn't
Yeah.
in the exact black skillet that she
Mm-hmm.
used, that she's had
Mm-hmm.
forever to make that hoe cake. And I used a black skillet. My mom has one
Mm-hmm.
that she's had forever. And it's just this touch. It's just
Yeah.
something ingrained in them. I mean, but big win on those
That's
two
true.
recipes. You got
I'm
this.
trying. I'm trying my best. Like,
But it's just such a blessing just to grow up in that house with, just beautiful Black matriarchs. Like, goodness gracious.
yeah,
Back to Finding Edna Lewis, because Miss Edna was just, oh my gosh, just an amazing woman. I'm just overly inspired. And Emmy Award, right?
it did what,
Now James Beard nominated.
yes.
Huge. I mean, I was waiting, Deb. I was waiting for the news. I was waiting. Like I literally, like when I saw it, I was like, what? Like, why are we shocked? Why are we shocked?
But you never know. You never know. You never know.
You are right. You are right.
You know what I
You
mean?
are right. If
So,
I didn't see it drop, I would have had some internal words with myself to be like, but I was literally waiting. I was just like, this is
wow.
going to be, James Beard, nominated. So I
Thank
was
you for that. I appreciate that.
absolutely, absolutely. In the at the pretty much towards the tail end of that documentary, and I don't want to tell all here, y'all. I haven't said that much, but he said that there's still so much that lingers about Edna. And that just like
Mhm.
really does struck at me. Cause like after it was over, I was like, I wanted to sit in that. Like I'm gonna watch it over like 10 times. It's just so much that you can pull from. And I just want
Yeah.
to sit there. And I said, wow, like I know there is so much. Like this woman like worked like in her older, like as she got older, like she was still working, like she moved, she was, New York, back to Virginia, and didn't even call out the fact that she was a seamstress like early in
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
had like this woman just it wasn't just tied to like, her chef skills, like she was a
Hmm.
seamstress. But anyway, what do you feel like still lingers about Edna, um, and the places
Yeah.
that she's touched?
I mean, I think a couple things. I think one, that phrase where, you're never really gone until no one says your name. And so I'm tearing up a little, a little bit, but
Mm,
think about my grandmother, um,
mm. Take
but
your moment, honey. Take your moment.
I,
Take your moment. Because I'm
um,
about to be crying right with you. It don't take much. It do not take much for me to shed a tear. Oh
but
my goodness.
yeah, so I think that the beauty of her memory is still with us, and that's so
Hmm.
important. So there's that. But then I also think that it's her legacy that continues on through her written word. Thank goodness we have her cookbooks, to refer to her, to what she was thinking, how she saw food ways, how she loved her community and her family where she was from. And so she's left all of that behind. And so I think that it doesn't stop with, the taste of country cooking. I mean, she's got three other cookbooks that are just as fabulous. So I
Hmm.
think that she's left a legacy for us when we think about our communities, how we grew up, how we're eating, why we're eating the way we do. I think she leaves that blueprint for us.
Oh, yes. Yes. And shout out to is it BEM? BEM?
Yes, yes,
Brooklyn Black, the
yes,
Black owned bookstore, woman owned bookstore in Brooklyn, who's,
yeah,
a string of celebration, around Edna Lewis. So shout out. They were also at the Black Women in Food Conference, which I purchased, some books. And so just shout out to them and just the honoring of her legacy and everyone else who's coming together. Just incredible.
yeah.
Super.
No, they did a whole week of Edna Lewis activations.
Mm,
So that was just so beautiful to see everything from like biscuit making to pickling to, you know, showing the film, all of those things in the same week was just really, really lovely. And they did a great job. I'm so happy to see that there was a whole week dedicated to her. And I'm pretty sure they want to continue to do this each year. I hope that they do, because I think each year it'll just get bigger and bigger.
yes, absolutely. Well, Deb, we're going to round out. If Etna Lewis could sit down and eat a meal with you today, what would you cook for her? You would be cooking for her. And what would you want her to know about what her life meant?
Well, one. I would be like shaking in my boots to I would be like, we're gonna get some catering because I don't want that on my shoulders. I do not need that kind of pressure in my life. I
I
seriously
feel you.
I would just be like, okay, what's the best restaurant I know? And like, can I call them? Can we make two plates or something? Because I'm not, I ain't cooking for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely not. She would be like, these
Heard.
are, you know what I mean? So no, I don't need that.
The pressure would
But
would be really real.
it would be. But if I could sit down with her, share a meal with her, I would tell her, honestly, I think, kind of what I said before, that she gave me such a sense of pride in where I came from.
Mhm.
And really just like, I'm grateful to that because it really allows me to approach my work differently and with a joy that an exuberance and a passion about the foods from Virginia. And so I already kind of had that, but she kind of learning about her and talking to her, talking through her work and talking to folks, she really gave me the courage to not be ashamed of Virginia. So I would absolutely tell her that.
I love that. I love that. What's next, Deb? What's next?
Well, now you've got me thinking about this church, this connection with food and church and how I can explore that. You've got me, my mind blowing right now. But yeah, I mean, what's next is we're going to kind of probably wrap up the tour with Edna Lewis. We're heading to London next month, and then trying to figure out some details for Paris later in the year in the fall. So we'll be going internationally because folks over there have not seen the film because it's
Oh,
been on
wow.
PBS here.
Yeah.
So folks don't haven't seen it. So I'm very excited about introducing the film to international audiences who really may have a preconceived notion of what Southern and Black food is and kind of like blowing that up. So I'm really,
Mhm.
really kind of excited about that. And pitching a couple of shows. We'll see what happens with that. But as always, I want to continue telling the folks of Black people and giving names and faces and, stories to what we're eating. That is my what I believe is my life goal. So
Mm. Well, we appreciate you. You are an inspiration, and I'm just just incredibly, incredibly happy, for this journey. I'm excited. Yes. Come on, international tour.
yes, yes,
I
that's gonna
love
be
this.
wild.
Yes. So, two things. Where can folks watch Finding Edna Lewis, and where can they find you on social?
Yeah, so on social, I'm audiophile girl with a PH. On Instagram, I'm pretty active there. And as far as where folks can see it, if you can get on Amazon Prime, or you can watch it if you're a PBS member. But I am happy to say that PBS Food is going to bring it back for free on YouTube in another month or so, which we're super excited. Because I think the number is something like, we're approaching like 200,000 people have already seen it. So I'm hoping to expand that number more. So in the next month, somewhere in the next month, they're going to be putting it back on YouTube. But if not, support PBS, support public television,
Absolutely.
and watch our PBS on your TV.
Absolutely. Yep. I think it's worth, I made a donation, it's worth it. Like we got to support our local publications. So yes, local media.
Yes, that's right.
Awesome. Deb, this has been the ultimate, ultimate pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a treat. It really
Yes,
was.
of course. And thank you all, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, peace. Thank you for listening to Edible Activists. You can find today's episode on Spotify, iTunes, and Simplecast, and follow along on all social media platforms at Edible Activists for updates. Want to support this platform? You can do so by purchasing our commerce or connecting with me about media partnerships at www.edibleactivist.com. In the words of Baba Tariq Adunu, there is no culture without agriculture. Peace.